Very brief introduction to the LLB. This is rather different from the degrees that will have been mentioned in the earlier session. It is a postgraduate degree. You have to have a degree to come into the course in the first place, but it's very different from that point of view. The LLB itself, the usual people who are doing the LLB are doing it over 2 years, and they're starting off as graduates, but not law graduates. They're starting off as a graduate of some other discipline. And so they're taking the main subjects from an undergraduate degree, and they're squeezing it into the 2 years rather than 3. We take it for granted that if you got through a first degree and you've got at least a 2H, because that's a requirement that we have, that you already know how universities function, how you can live within them. You already know how to read things at the sort of speed that your tutors require and so forth. So it's aimed for people who are already graduates, who've already proven that they have university skills, and then giving them the various skills that you have in a basic law degree. So it's taught at level 9 in the sense that you're already a graduate, you're expected to have good abilities in absorbing information in a university context. But we're going over the subjects that 18-year-olds will have taken 3 years to absorb. Okay, so it's a relatively small class. That's the LLB director before me. Fiona was director a couple of years ago. I've taken over now. So she's doing the introductory class there for the LLB. For the LLB itself, assuming you start off with a degree, but not a law degree, then this is the way you go. In year 1, you do a succession of subjects there on the left, really the basic legal subjects. And then you have a tiny amount of discretion there, 5 credits optional subject. We give you 3 subjects which you can choose between them from that point of view. It's restricted in that way, partly because we're doing the primary legal subjects, the one where we're aiming it at people who are pretty bright, but they've only just been exposed to law, and we're introducing them that way. So basic constitutional law, basic contract, basic tort, and so forth. Once you have all of that, then really you're in position to do much more. And so in your second year, you get a huge amount of discretion there. We insist that you do property law. We are lawyers after all, but nonetheless, the other 50 credits, you get to pick, and you get to pick from virtually all the subjects that are available to undergraduates there. So that's the way you do it if you're doing it in 2 years, which, as I say, most people do. There is another route in the LLB. If, in fact, you are a law graduate already, if you already have a law degree, but nonetheless want to fill in some more subjects to make you better qualified, then you can miss out the first year, miss out the basics because you've already done them in another institution or indeed in UCC. And then you go straight on to the optional choices there. And indeed, if you've already done property law, we don't make you do it again. We only make you do it once. So you have complete freedom in that regard. So, as I say, the basic pattern for the LLB, we expect people to be doing it for 2 years because most of the people doing it are new to law entirely, although they're not new to universities. But there's a fair degree of flexibility built into it to allow for things you've learned already. So, flexibility. Another aspect of the flexibility, of the various additional aspects of the flexibility there, LLB can be done over a longer time. For each of the years, you could do that in 2 years, if that seemed reasonable. You do half the subjects in each of the year. This is very often the right way to go for people who are already in employment and simply need a law degree. Another aspect of the flexibility, it's possible to sign up for the 2-year LLB But actually, if all you wanted was the introductory subjects, then you can leave after 1 year. We would recognize the study there by giving you a diploma in law, recognizing that you've done that subject. And very often people follow that route when they're headed straight for the legal professions. They'll already have spent 3 years doing their first, 3 or 4 years doing their first degree, and then an additional year of law just to get them ready for that. On top of that, people come to us with all sorts of records. Very often they've studied some of the subjects beforehand. If you can show that you've studied a particular subject in another university, we have the documentation for that, then you get exemption from the compulsory papers. We don't make you do anything again that you've done in the first place. So that's the basic pattern there for the LLB. Once you get a full list of options, as I say, you can get anything you like from the undergraduate offering for the various BCL degrees. So that's a current list of all the various options, but it's a pretty broad list from that point of view. By the time you're coming into your final year, most people have a pretty good idea of what sort of legal work they want to do. They may well have started with a vague idea, I want to be a lawyer, but by that stage, they have a pretty good idea of what sort of lawyer, and that's the point at which the options begin to matter. So that's the LLB generally. As to what our people go on to, quite a few go on to qualify as solicitor. An awful lot of them go on to qualify as a solicitor, but then ultimately don't stay being a solicitor. Once they have the qualification, and if they spent some time as an apprentice, that's useful to go on to something else that they'd rather do. And of course, they will have considerably more contacts by that stage, more experience, a better idea of what they want to do. I'd say only about half of our students taking our various law degrees actually end up as lawyers as such. Nearly all of them use their legal skills in some context, but the professions are changing from that point of view. An awful lot of people need legal advice. If people want to go on to be barristers, then the LLB qualifies them for that. And of course, we have a steady stream of people who don't stay in Ireland. We have a regular stream going east to England and Wales, or west to America or to Canada. So that's the general approach there. Entry requirements, as I say, we're aiming it at graduates. The basic criterion is second-class honours. If you have second-class honours, then you can get into the LLB. If somebody says, I not only have second-class honours, I'm a lawyer, well, if they convince us, then certainly they've got to know enough law to be able to take advantage of the final year options. And so we have criteria for how much law you have to have done before we'll say you're a lawyer. But that's the basic idea. If you studied at least 2 years worth of law as part of your first degree, then you'd be enough of a lawyer for our purposes. So that's the LLB degree there, and that's really all I have to say. For the details of applying there are the codes there for how many years and whether you want to do it part-time or full-time. They would technically be different degrees in the eyes of administrators, so you're applying for slightly different codes there, but there's information enough on the website.